we're going to look at leg circles. So you're just going to need your mat and we're going to come down to lie on your back. Now, if you want to, grab a pillow for underneath your head, and we're just going to start with your hands on your pelvis. And I want you to do just a couple of pelvic tilts forward and backwards so we can find some degree of middle ground. Now, I find a lot of people don't do this exercise because they feel like they're not flexible enough. Well, you're about to see how not as flexible I am, but I think it's a really great exercise to do. So find somewhere in the middle and keep your hands on the front of your pelvis for me, and we're going to lift one leg to tabletop. Now, whichever leg you've chosen, just allow the thumb nice and flat to just settle into the front of that hip and that thigh so you can give a little bit of a feel to that muscle and what's going on. If we're in lazy tabletop here, there shouldn't be too much activity happening in the front of the thigh or up into the kind of groin area where you've got your thumb. Now, see if you can keep that centeredness in your pelvis, so we've got that middle ground, and you're going to slowly start to extend that knee until the point where you start to feel that muscle bulk switching on. Now, for me, that's about there. Can you go a little bit further without anything changing in your pelvis or without a massive flicker happening into the front of your thigh? So for me, this is pretty much it. Okay, and bend your knee again and come all the way back down. So just do that again, and I'm going to show you what happens if you're really trying to push it. So if you just start to extend that leg, we're still sinking that thigh into the socket, so gravity is taking it there. Now, if I want to go a little bit further, I have to start to tuck my bottom under, so I've got a little bit more slack in my hamstring for my leg to extend. So I'm pushing into my foot here, my tailbone is tucked under a little bit and my leg is getting straighter, which means if I lifted that other foot off the floor, you can see my leg suddenly goes away from me. I'm having to work quite hard to hold it there. The front of my thigh is gripping. And then just relax. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a shake. Okay, we're going to find the other leg. So let the other leg come up into that lazy tabletop. Again, front of the hand into the front of the thigh. And again, just extend that leg to the point at which it feels like you're about there. So for me, I'm here. Take a look at the screen if you don't know where that is. And then bring it back down again. Now, if you're really flexible, you can probably get your leg to straighter. But for me, on a good day, I can touch my toes. I've got really normal flexibility. So I do have this bend in my knee. Now, pick a leg, whichever leg you want it to be. I'll do this leg so you can see a little bit more. And we're going to rest our hands down by our side. Nice and flat hands, nice and spread fingers. Again, you're going to start to extend that leg so you can still have that sense of dropping into the hip socket. And we're going to just take the thigh down towards the floor. And then we're going to circle it out, up, round, and back to middle. Okay, so just do that a few times. Now, as you do this, you might find that your leg extends a little bit and then flexes a little bit. You might feel that you start to put a little bit more weight into one hand than the other. But can you keep your pelvis nice and square? So if you want to, put your hands on your pelvis. You're trying to anchor down the opposite side as you rotate that leg out, down, round, and in. And the aim is not to get the leg straight. The aim is to circle that hip in the hip socket and just use a little bit of core stability to keep that trunk really nice and quiet. Now, if this is feeling okay, you can start to go across the midline of your body. And again, you might feel a little bit of a stretch in the hamstring as you come back up. You might start to feel the front of your thigh, your hip flexors working a little bit more here. They should do, because that's what's doing a lot of this movement. But the pelvis is staying nice and quiet. So we'll do one more in this direction. And then I'm going to get you to bend your knee, pause, take it down to the floor, and we're going to do the other leg. So just bring that leg up towards tabletop, start to extend the thigh. And again, can your pelvis stay quiet as you come down, out, round, and back in. Keep going in that. So we're going through the center of you and then drawing a circle out and round. And again, You're finding that stretch in your hamstring, but it's not pulling you under. Your pelvis is staying in that neutral space. And if it starts to rock and roll, you're going to see if you can anchor down the other side in order to keep that stability. If it's feeling good, go a little bit more across your midline and take that as and how you can, whilst you're maintaining that stability in your pelvis. We'll go one more in this direction, and then we're going to pause and pop that foot down. Lift the other leg back up. Now, if your leg is straight, if you want to, you can extend the other leg. So the minute you extend the other leg, you have less slack in this hamstring, so you might find it a little bit harder, or a little bit, you won't get your leg as straight. So again, extend that leg for me to where you feel you can. We're going to come down, out, up, and in. If you feel good, you can start to go across that midline, so you can start to draw slightly bigger circles. But again, can you circle that hip in the socket? So how easy can you make this in the hip socket? You might find your exhale breath helps to take you down, your inhale breath helps to bring you up. And we're going to do one more in this direction, and then we're going to change direction. So start back in the midline, go out, round, down, middle, and up through the middle. So we're always going to come back to that midline to start, so we can warm up that hip in that direction. And if it feels good, you can start, excuse me, you can start to go across your midline and back up again, so those circles get a little bit bigger. Press down into the opposite foot a little bit to give you some stability. Use your arms. And can that pelvis stay really nice and quiet as we do one more circle? And then pause, pop that foot on the floor, slide the other leg, extend that leg wherever it can go. We're going to go out, round, down, midline, and up. So we've reversed the circle on this side. And again, it's all about circling that hip in the socket, keeping that pelvic stability. If it's feeling good, go across the midline and up. And it's not about how straight you can get that leg, because we know what happens if we don't quite have the give there. And that's something you can work towards, but it will change on any given day depending on if you've been to the gym, done loads of hamstring work, been sitting down all day. We'll go one more in this direction, and then back to the center. We're going to go down, out, up, and in. Center, down, out, up, and in. Now keep going for me, and again start to make those circles as big as you want to be. So my left leg feels significantly stiffer into that knee straight than the other side. And that's okay. We all have asymmetries. We're not born symmetrical, so it's fine. But you just want to keep that hip circling in the joint. We're going to do one more there. And then pause, bend that knee, hold on to the front of it for me. Bring the other knee up. Just give yourself a little roll. Just let your lower back go, let your hips settle a little bit. And when you're ready, roll onto your side, press yourself up. And well done. Thanks for joining me in Leg Circles.